My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's grand final week.
Oh!
So that was the grand final of the Great British Bake Off Season 8.
Absolutely did not disappoint. It was a joy to watch, beginning to end.
It was a great episode. It was...
From bread to, I need to run away from that cake. It's
from
very
bread
scary.
to entremet.
Oh!
It doesn't quite
No.
work. So, and it's entremet anyway, but...
Yeah, it's like entremet, I ran away.
I don't really care what it is. It was mirror glazy thing, that's what we'll call it. But
divine.
We'll come back to that anyway.
Yes.
So the final three bakers were obviously Kate, Stephen and Sophie. They were the three finalists.
And if I were Prue Leith, right about now is when I'd be announcing who won.
Well, you can anyway because people have already watched.
Oh, it was Sophie.
Yeah, it was Sophie. Now, obviously, we've done this series, and if you notice at the start of it, we did not make a prediction for this series of Great British Bake Off.
Well, it would seem pretty stupid, and everyone would go, oh my God, like, use it on Twitter, and she has it in her profile.
Yeah, it was kind of very hard to miss spoilers. I know a few people that did manage to miss spoilers. Hello, hello, Gabby. Well done. People who sidestepped spoilers. But I know there are lots of you. Hello, Brandon, who
had already watched
much
it.
like us knew he'd watched. Obviously, he'd been over in England because that's the only way he would have seen it.
Yes. Every week he would fly to England.
Watch it and come home.
Because he's like a billionaire philanthropist. He just flies around the world.
He's promoting this podcast, so good on him.
Thank you.
So, no, it was... Obviously, it had screened earlier in 2017, and as many people are aware, Prue Leith, the morning of the grand final, tweeted out it was a really hard decision, but well done, Sophie, and congratulations.
Timing.
That went really well. This is why Mary Berry wasn't on Twitter.
Well, the thing is, right, is I actually was avoiding spoilers until like the first week. I'm sitting there and going, I've got to follow everyone on Twitter so I remember them, not thinking that the winner would have updated their stage to say winner of. And so that's when I spotted Sophie, and I'm like, okay, just conveniently forget it, but it's difficult.
Because I didn't tell you spoilers deliberately, even though I knew them.
Because I would have, I don't know, hit you over the head with a baguette.
You would have. But I knew them, but I deliberately did. Why stale one? Because you don't want to waste a good one?
They're harder.
Yeah, you don't want to waste a good one?
No, they're better with brie.
Exactly. Well, to be fair, most things are better with brie. So it was a really good finale, actually. We did sort of compare it a little bit to last season's. And again, that's not a shot at last season's bakers who did exactly what was asked of them, but there were some interesting challenges tonight. We didn't get the Victoria sandwich thing, which was good.
Phew. What I think is fantastic is that each bake really did require a different skill set. Like the cookies and not cookies, the biscuits, because we're English and Australian. They really required amazing technical knowledge and piping skills to, just basically show everyone how fucking awesome you are. Not to mention, what did we start with again? Oh, the bread. The bread.
What did we start with? It's Paul Hollywood's show. What do you think we started with?
We're starting with bread, yeah. And not just bread, 3 kinds of bread.
Yeah, let's not make it, too simple. Let's go with 3 different lots of bread, and one of them had to be with different grain.
Yes.
There was a couple of people went with a filling, which different proving times, different baking times, different baking temperatures.
And one oven.
And one bench.
Because, why give them 2 ovens?
That would be stupid.
I mean, it's not like they've got extras hanging around somewhere, I'm sure. They've had to return those to Radio Rentals, which is where I presume they get their ovens from.
I'm assuming exactly the same thing. So they went with different styles, and it sort of summed each of them up a little bit.
Yeah.
So Stephen went with his Spelton rye. Mm-hmm. Then he did a toasted garlic and fontana, and then he also did a sweet chocolate.
Oh, I thought that sounded delish.
It did. It sounded really good.
Bit of cinnamon, bit chocky.
Bit of cinnamon, bit of chocky, bit of nice.
Bit of bread.
Bit of nice. So Sophie did things that were...
Sophie.
So they were creative. They were fairly solid.
Absolutely.
Not without being technically difficult. On the contrary, they were, especially the mushroom ciabatta was very complex with the mushroom filling inside of it, and you've got to bake.
And she chose a couple of bakes that technically should have a longer proving time.
The orange platted brioche, for example.
Like, as Alvin would have told her if he was there.
Oh, yes, because...
Sophie, Ciabatta.
So
Needs more proving time.
when they said they would have been ciabatta, we just imagined that Alvin from a couple of years ago, his ears just perked up. He's like, ciabatta.
It's like when they bring out the Boost Mary Berry. You say ciabatta,
and Alvin appears. Say ciabatta 3 times and Alvin will just rise.
He's like the ciabatta genie.
Because for those who don't remember, the series that Alvin was in, every week when
2
he...
years ago, 2015?
Yeah, every week he was in the Nadia series. Every week when he made something and they got to a bread, he made ciabatta. And then they got to bread week and he was just in his element. It was...
Oh, yeah.
Again, he wasn't the Lion, which was, a masterpiece, but he just made some...
Like Paul?
He just made ciabatta all over the place.
And then he made things that looked like ciabatta.
And then he made things that look like ciabatta too. So
Ciabatta Whisperer.
He was the ciabatta whisperer. And then Kate, who went with a Roman spelt, which of course she did.
Oh, that's brilliant because, I'm sure medieval anachronism is one of her many hobbies.
And I love it though, she was giving all the breads like Roman names. And then Noel's just there chirping in with
this
like...
is Steve.
Yeah, it was like modern names. Yeah, that'll do. And then she also did a coconut... the coconut one she did had the curry filling with that sugar that Sandy tried and went, whoa, that's really good. Got a punch. Because, of course, Kate...
Was it from, which one was it that had moon sugar?
It was the
Skyrim. Skyrim had moon sugar, didn't
Skyrim,
it? No.
Somebody had... Anyway, one of the games...
RPGs
we'll remember it. Some people listening going either...
Oh, my God, it was such and such.
Or they're going, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
One or the other. We don't quite know. And you know what? We don't care.
Yeah.
And then she did the flour breads, which looked really cool as well.
Yeah.
What I also want to say is that Stevens, with the thatching and the matting that he did on it,
it looked like he'd thatched a thicket to his jacksie. Hello, get this, listeners. I'm kidding.
Not quite. What it looked like to me, they went, oh, that looks really like a tight weave. And I looked at it and it looked like an old school football.
Yeah.
Like one that they would have used in the 1927 FA Cup final.
Hello,
like
and welcome to the field where we're welcoming Stephen and his bread-based soccer ball.
As we can see, this is a savant.
It is the Depression.
This is a savant on British football.
We couldn't afford actual soccer balls. We had to use bread. I presume that's what happened.
Why would they use bread for a soccer ball when they couldn't eat? Surely they just eat the bread.
Because...
Or maybe they were eating the soccer balls.
With your
other way around, they were eating the soccer balls
because they were more filling and good. You could
get bread, but leather keeps. So anyway, the 12 small loaves. It was an interesting challenge to put in there. Now, one of the things with those flavours, I tweeted out tonight that imagine the flavours that you would find in a bakery run by Kate and Ian of a couple of seasons ago. You'd swear the ingredients were from Narnia. However, most of them would be from Ian's garden. At which point, everyone on Twitter said we'd all queue up for the food.
Yeah.
And Kate was enjoying that, and then Ian chimed in with, and wouldn't you know it, I was just making millionaire shortbreads with products from the garden. It's like
does he have his own caramel in the garden?
I love the idea that he's got a caramel tree.
Or he's got his own cocoa, like he makes his chocolate from scratch.
If anyone was going to have a caramel tree, it would be Ian. Ian would have been the person who would have worked out how to do that.
Which hedgerow he could forage it from. Behind old Mr. Smith's lane.
If you take the sap out of this tree, it's like caramel. Of course he would work that out. It goes along with the idea of course, Kate did extra elements because Kate. So the bread challenge went it was a fairly straightforward-ish challenge.
Yep.
When they did the judging, Sophie's were slightly under, but the flavours were good.
Yep.
Stevens.
I just felt my heart break a little.
I felt so bad for Stephen.
And I was with Sandy. I'm like, just hug him.
A theme in this episode was feeling really bad for poor Stephen.
But it wasn't that he was...
It wasn't disastrous.
It wasn't disastrous, just little things.
Just off, and you can't be just off.
No, not in this finale. This finale is tight.
And Kate was... And Kate was brilliant. And Kate's breads were really good.
Bang on. You could see the crust. You could see the crumb. It was just Bread City. Oh, yeah.
Bread City limits.
Yes.
Bread City limits. I'm singing tonight. Look what you've done to me. Now, we move into
plan has worked.
We move into the second challenge. Now,
Speaking of evil plans.
the second challenge, the technical, 10 ginger biscuits. Now, we had a bit of feedback from Robert on Twitter. Robert, you'll get to meet a little bit later on because he's one of the bakers coming up in the Great Australian Bake Off.
2017 or 2018. We're not sure how they're going to pitch it.
We'll talk more about that at the end of this episode.
Yes.
But he was saying that this is actually a really tricky challenge because it looks straightforward, and the ginger biscuits are straightforward.
Right.
He said the challenging bit is it's about timing. And
we saw that with
Kate.
Cool.
We saw that with Kate.
Yep.
Because he said doing that icing and especially doing the flooding, he said is much harder than you think. And it actually comes down to a case of timing the icing and getting it all down properly. Now, I agree with him. I didn't have an issue with this one. I would have picked something different.
Oh, what would you have picked, Buchanan?
I don't know, but just think back to, and I know they did Sfogliatelli a couple of weeks ago in Italian Week, but again,
that wasn't
the Australian Bake Off Grand Final souffle leading into Sfogliatelli, which are two really complicated bakes, and you'd expect the pinnacle to be those sorts of bakes. I mean, I get it, and I'm not hating on it. It's definitely not the Victoria sandwich from last year.
The thing is, what I liked about the technical is that it did require a technical challenge, and it was leading the guys up to present something that actually looked good. Like, it was still challenging, but you weren't going to get these crappy, what did they do last year? The Victoria sponges.
Sandwiches, which were horrible.
Which just looked... they could have looked, if they had an extra 3 hours, would have looked spectacular.
It was make a sponge and put a bit of ice in that sort of. It was just jam, cream, sponge, and we're like that's.
But not in enough time to make it look good.
So
I think it was a good balance, and I know you disagree.
No, I don't disagree because I understand that the technique involved in that icing does make it technical. So I don't disagree completely. I will also use it to reinforce my idea that I think that the Australian Bake Off guys did a harder job. But that's not to downplay what happened in British, because I thought that the quality was overall, we said it was a bit of a dip the last few weeks, but the grand final, when we get to the showstopper, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So,
like, anyone who may have gone into this week doubting the abilities of any of those three bakers can just sit down, pull up a pew, and start their Hail Marys, because everyone came with their A game and they produced phenoms.
And we got introduced to the phrase from Sophie, speed piping. Now for me...
Oh, me plums, I've been speed piping.
Well, speed piping to me sounded like something a British tabloid would accuse a celebrity of doing in a hotel room. He was busted speed piping.
Insiders and fellow guests.
Yeah, or there'd be some fake sheikh who would have like a little camera just sort of filming... that's where I went with that. That's where I went with that.
Your vacuum cleaner is awfully large. Ignore the whirring noise.
Ignore the fact that it's saying refocus. So in the technical, you had Kate came third in the technical because she didn't finish her biscuits.
No, you're skipping over the most important part, which is when it was being announced and Sandy's like, so, Prue, are you going to go easy on the bakers? And it seriously looked like Prue just turned into Maleficent and there was this, evil queen, lightning flash. And just with a shake of her head. And
Hollywood just looked at her and went... And then their conversation about dunking.
Yes.
I like their conversation about dunking.
I'm not too posh to dunk.
No one's too posh to dunk.
It's true.
It's true. Who doesn't dunk? If you're not a dunker, just turn off the podcast now. No, don't do that. Don't do that. We love you. We love you all.
And if you're really posh, then you'd go to Greece and have to dunk their biscuits, which are designed for dunking, in your coffee. I mean, because you'd be a millionaire on a boat in the Greek islands.
Obviously, the worst part about dunking a biscuit is when you dunk it for just that. There's that fine line between dunking it to the right consistency.
But thankfully...
And accidentally leaving it in there for a little bit too long and having it fall off, because there's nothing worse than having the biscuit fall off in the drink.
I know. You're getting those, remains at the end.
Granted, I'm not fishing out a ginger biscuit normally. No. I'm fishing out a Scotch finger, and that's just disgusting.
But thankfully, the English have actually, funded someone to do their PhD to work out the perfect timing for dunking a biscuit.
Because why not? Because if any society was going to do it...
It's a cultural study.
It is.
You know, I'd like to see an Australian come in with the perfect time to Tim Tam Slam.
That's a good one. Universities, if you're out there, Tim Tam Slam and study.
Yeah.
And if you're from England and you're listening to this after the Yan podcast, and thank you for listening, by the way.
YouTuber Tim Tam Slam.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people in the UK are very aware of Tim Tams because Australians, when they go over there, do nothing but talk about them.
We have Tim Tams. Oh, look at you! You've got the London Eye and this tower.
Yeah, we've got Tim Tams.
You know,
and by the way, just to clarify there with Tim Tams, it's not just the Australians going, "Oh yeah, Tim Tams are amazing." I was talking to someone I know at Australia Post, and they said that one of the most sent overseas items in Australia is Tim Tams, because people who come out here for holidays and have one go, "Can we get some Tim Tams?" So they get friends in Australia to post like large boxes of Tim Tams over there. I may have done that before.
One of the most hilarious things I've seen at one of the Australian supernovas with John Barrowman is every fan coming up and presenting him with Tim Tams. So and there's different varieties too. So he had this tower, this Jenga tower of Tim Tams that was taller than him by the end of it.
Barrowman crushed under the weight of Tim Tams.
It's like, how are you going to declare that at airport?
Barrowman!
You can offer me a bribe. About 50 packs at Tim Tams.
So, in the technical, Kate came third in the technical because she didn't finish her biscuits in terms of the piping. Sophie came second, Stephen came first. So that flips the result of the first challenge. So Sophie's second and second.
Yep.
Kate's been first and third. Stephen's been third and first.
So technically, they're all on an even standing. When you average it out, they're all at a 2. If my maths doesn't fail me, which it often has.
But we'll pretend anyway.
Yes.
So what you needed for the showstopper, now the entremet,
Courage.
The entremet, which they said was
Resilience.
a dessert that was sometimes served in between
And
meals.
iron will.
Mirror glazing.
Yes. Like, I was just talking about... Like,
that's what you need. Mirror glazing.
Mirror glazing.
It's a personal quality at this point.
It's a mousse.
It's a mousse.
It has to be a sponge.
So you needed
What do you
to
call
have
these? Sponge cake?
You needed to have 5 elements, or as
Call
Stephen
these stuff on
heard,
top. Yeah.
as Stephen heard, 14.
Yes, because why make an entremet when you can make an entre-chic torta?
Hollywood and Matt Moran come together to count the layers.
Well, there were 2 parts. Who would be the galaxy side and who would be the snow side? Oh, Paul Hollywood has to be the galaxy side because of his eyes and his stare that makes you go existential. And Matt Moran because...
Straight down the line.
Yeah.
No mess, no fuss. Just get in there and do it.
And when you open up, there's lamb.
There's Moran lamb. Although I did see him tweet tonight, at his new restaurant he was serving Moran beef.
Oh, ooh.
We need some of that too.
Yeah, it's my birthday coming up. Anyone that wants to, go, "Oi, Moran, let Chris and Kristie come to the restaurant. We'll pay." Like, he doesn't have to be
we'll
free.
pay.
We'll
Not
pay.
freebies.
It's not freebies.
Not freebies.
Just get us in there.
So you had Stephen. We'll start with Stephen's. So Stephen did the yin and yang one, which his galaxy mirror glaze looked incredible.
It did. What I loved about it was ambitious. He was essentially making 2 cakes. And whereas Kate and Sophie just had that very simple, I say simple because they make it look easy, but in comparison to the 2 yin-yang shapes, they just had to cut out the circles and make them, even. Whereas here's Stephen doing essentially 2 cakes in a weird-ass motherfucking shape because no one else is going to go, "Oh, I'd like half of one of those. I want a sperm cake," which is essentially what it looks like, doesn't it? You take just one of them, the white one, for example.
I think you're projecting. Anyway, so Stephen's... Look, we love you, Stephen. We really love you.
And we also love The Simpsons.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because, well, let's face it, what was it inspired by?
Aurora Borealis.
At this time of year, at this time of day, located entirely on your yin and yang cake.
May I see it?
No. So, and I did like the fact that at the end they said that Sophie and Stephen were going on a holiday to look at the Northern Lights.
I know, that is just the coolest. I wish we lived in a hemisphere where it was easy to go and see, like, the
Southern Cross.
The Aurora Australis, because, like, you have to either be down in Tasmania or somewhere where like global warming or the ozone layer has peeled back.
Which is most of Australia, to be fair.
I know, just not here in this unknown city.
Unknown city that we didn't confirm last episode when we were talking to Yan.
Yeah.
So we didn't say Sydney at all.
Generic Australian city.
Generic Australian city that could be Sydney, probably isn't, but possibly is.
Has a waterfront. What
Yes.
kind of water?
We don't know. There might be a bridge. Who can say? So, Stephen's yin and yang, look, we love you, but you know just as well as we do, the layers didn't quite hold the way that the others did. As Paul said, it just tasted, you know, when the flavours came out, it just tasted like little chunks of banana. It didn't quite, the flavours didn't quite work.
But could you imagine if he was, like, if he's just making that by himself in as much time as he
it'd be
needed?
amazing.
Oh,
The thing with Stephen is, unfortunately for me, the yin-yang cake that he made at the end sort of summed up what happened to him over the course of the show.
it was that.
It looked spectacular,
Yeah, the pendulum.
but it was just off a little bit here and there.
The pendulum between style and substance.
And that was at the end where they showed Sophie and Stephen with the style and substance hashtags.
Yeah. He really needs to get into baking Kabbalah and just bring the two opposing pillars and just come to the centre pillar where he will achieve greatness. Just going baking spiritual there. You know, just like
Deep in-
Sophie did with her baking yoga.
Well done with that. So she made the Ode to the Honeybee, which looked incredible. It looked incredible. Flight of the Bumblebee,
yeah.
which is about it doesn't translate really.
No.
So she made her Ode to the Bumblebee, which featured a few highlights
layers.
in particular. The layers were brilliant. As Noel referred to it at one point, wistful honeycomb, which our friend Gabby referred to as Noel and the Wistful Honeycomb is now his new band.
And one of my new fantasies. It's Honeycomb and Noel Fielding. Like, come on.
Okay, I'll just leave you with that for a
Thank
moment.
you.
While you're doing that, I'll just
Describe
truck
more.
on. I'll truck on.
Describe.
So the honeycomb looked amazing. Look, you can't really go wrong with honeycomb.
Oh, no.
And the bee that she designed for the top
that's the honeycomb,
looked
yeah.
incredible. And also around the outside.
What?
Now this
That's
is where
ridiculous, Noel.
this is where the problem came in. The only issue I had with her whole design was she went with a chocolate collar. Now,
Oh, chocolate collar, yes.
have we back to your fantasy now?
Have we learnt nothing?
Have we
Has
not?
Jane not taught us anything?
Has Jane, between you and then also when Kate used acetate, and I was like, no! Have none of us learned from Jane's example?
You just hear this scream of like anguish echo across England.
Well,
as the acetate
if
comes
you
out.
remember earlier in the series, you were tweeting about people using acetate and collars, and Jane piped in and went, I was almost over it.
Poor Jane.
Poor Jane. We love you, Jane. But, yeah, like, I'm going to put a chocolate collar around this. And sitting there going, this can't end well. And sure enough, crack. And she managed to get it back together again. The flavours were sensational. It looked amazing.
Plus, if you
her
looked at
glazing looked incredible.
Incredible. And if you looked at her other chocolate work, like the way she did the bee with
that bee
the
was-
mould was
yeah.
beautiful. The honeycomb, using the bubble wrap as the mould for the honeycomb, and
It's
it gave
genius.
a beautiful shape.
She had a lot of really... Look, we've said a few times that she's been outstandingly stable and a very strong baker, but nothing blow-away brilliant. This was
Tonight.
blow-away brilliant.
Yeah.
That was a magnificent cake. And then you had Kate. Now,
Let go of the ouzo, Chris.
you're expecting me to go on a rant about yuzu.
I saw it bubbling away.
Right, you're
when it came up
expecting-
during the show, I'm like, don't, Chris, you leave that alone.
You're
And
ex-
Noel's talking about the ouzo.
You're
What does
all
it taste
expecting
like?
me to go about the yuzu.
Yeah, it's very sad.
I have no problem with it.
What? hold up.
I have no problem with it.
Hold on, explain.
Okay.
Why do you not have a problem with this ouzo?
Because look at what the hell she did with it.
Fuck yeah.
Right? That cake belonged in an art gallery. It was...
In Japan.
It was actually... It reminded me of, like, Yoko Ono's 60s art that she did with John Lennon and stuff like that, because they did a lot of, like, white... You know, everything, like the house was white, the white grand piano, the white, all that sort of stuff.
Well, they couldn't afford a lot.
It was-
They were two struggling artists. He was a musician. She was a painter. How do you expect them to get through?
It was
They couldn't afford fancy colours.
absolutely sublime. I had...
What does band
Look,
ever do?
I had issues with the idea of Yuzu because everyone knows I have a big issue with Yuzu in general. But
You should hear him at night time in his sleep muttering about it.
But I thought that what she did with that, the white chocolate and yuzu, the way she did that white mirror glaze, the way that she set her layers, which were, again, the same as what we saw with Sophie's, were just perfectly set.
Just stunning. And she said that, she goes, I've dyed, was it the lychee syrup, red because she wants all this white and this flash of colour in the middle. And it was very dramatic when Paul cut into it.
And that beautiful decoration across the top, which just offset the thing beautifully.
And the orange in it, and a little butterfly. The
butterfly on the side was incredible.
Yeah.
I absolutely adored it. And I'm not ashamed to say I absolutely loved that cake. And
it was really... I think you could have split hairs about who won.
So when they did the tasting, it was pretty obvious from that it was 1 in 2. It was either going to be Kate or Sophie.
Yeah.
Now...
But that mirror glaze, I have to go back to Stephen's mirror glaze, right? Because as soon as you started pouring on, you saw these little flecks of sparkle. And I'm like, it's just drawing you in. Like everyone, when they were pouring their mirror glazes...
Well, my favourite mirror glaze by far was the Galaxy.
The Galaxy, yeah, that looked amazing going on. Sophie's mirror glaze, and you just saw her, like, how her colours came out and rippled down to make that marbling effect.
When she did that, it looked to me like she'd taken like a pre-dyed fabric.
Yes.
And it wasn't pouring. She was just putting this pre-dyed fabric over the top. It just unfurled perfectly with the patterns.
Like the oil painting that you do.
Yes. It was sublime. And again, just the
simplicity of Kate's
simplicity, but it was
refined
white and simple, but it's easy to screw that up because if there's a slight bump on that, you're going to notice it.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. So it was a really difficult challenge at the end there. Well done. Even with those Stevens, the centre wasn't particularly brilliant. That mirror glaze was superb. Everyone deserves credit for that.
To be honest, if someone had served what Steven served up, 10 bakes ago, they would have got Star Baker.
Oh, yeah. Now, in terms of the judging, now and this is personal opinion,
yes,
I personally would have given it to Kate. I understand why it went to Sophie, and I don't have a problem with it. I think either of them winning was the right call. I don't think there was a wrong call that you could have made.
No.
It was a bit unfortunate for Stephen because if Stephen had baked to normal level, it would have been almost impossible.
Yeah, if Stephen was at top form, and he was just a little under, and it's just those little tiny things.
It's the smallest bit that overrules it. But I think... For me personally, I thought that Kate did such an outstanding job on the first bake and such an outstanding job on the third bake.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I think it went... We talked about this before we started recording. The reason why we think it went to Sophie was because she was second, and then probably got first in that...
Absolutely.
In the showstopper. And it was probably the fact that she didn't fluctuate around.
No.
It was possibly the fact that if Kate had finished those biscuits... I think it's a harder call.
Absolutely. If Kate had finished those biscuits and say she got second in that in the biscuit challenge, she would have been Star Baker. Oh, she would have won.
She would have won. Yeah, I think if Kate comes second and not third in the biscuits, Kate wins.
But you know what? That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Or didn't, because they were ginger and they were quite good with snapping. Exactly.
That's the way the biscuit snaps.
Again, I have absolutely no issue with Sophie winning. And
No, she absolutely deserved.
We talked about this last week when we talked about Sophie.
Yeah.
Sophie is a very good, consistently good baker.
Yeah.
Producing solid. What she produced tonight was that little bit of flair we were looking for the whole way through.
Absolutely. And, when you hear Prue talking about Sophie, she's like, she just needed that little bit of confidence. She looks very cool and calm and collected, but Prue observed that Sophie just needed some confidence. And I think, at the end when you see that Stephen and Sophie are now best friends, I think that is the perfect combination. Could you imagine the two of them, helping each other develop?
That'd be incredible.
Oh.
And
they're off to see the Aurora
Borealis. So I think it was close. I think it was really close. I don't have the slightest issue with her winning. No. I think that overall, the other thing is, and this is not a shot at Candice at all, but I think that if Kate was in the last series, I think Kate would have won the last series.
Yes.
So I think it's just again,
Like at the draw.
The overall standard, and even though we said there was a little bit of a dip in the last couple of weeks, the general quality of the people in their baking was a jump up. And Hollywood said that, and it wasn't, in this case, it wasn't just empty rhetoric said in a grand final. Look at those first couple of weeks in the tent. Like, look at the first week in the tent, where they're baking stuff at a quality that is ridiculously high.
Absolutely.
And coming off the back of last year, where the first challenge was make a sponge. You know, it's a very different tent this year.
It is, and I honestly think it's just the tide. You know, like last year it was. I mean, first of all, anyone who puts themselves forward to go on a cooking show such as Bake Off, one has to be very good, but two has to have the balls of steel, because you're putting yourself out there, because you're not only particularly Great British Bake Off, because it's got a wider audience, it's got more of a.
I got nervous. You saw me. I got nervous the other day before I put a photo of me making duck sausage rolls on Instagram. Imagine me in a Bake Off. No. Not
one, I
that.
can't bake. I'd be more in the Nolan Sandy field, but I'd be their dodgier cousin that would be making really bad puns in the corner.
I could do it, but I just go, no, I don't want to get judged. I don't want to get judged. I could do the baking bit, but I just don't want to be judged.
I'd really like to actually write their opening sketches, because I'd have some time to think about it, and I could probably come up with something decent.
You and your baking puns, though, are just, first
I'd put the puns in.
I know, exactly.
Puns can go into the sketches.
That's what they're supposed to be, exactly. That's why you'd be good.
Yeah.
Because your baking puns know no limits.
Oh, maybe that's what I'll do, is I will write an opening sketch for a couple of weeks for us to do, as alternatives.
Let us know if you think that's a good idea, listeners.
Let us know if you want to act in them, because it's just going to be our
Yeah, if you
voices.
want to be on there, please, by all means.
Which one of us will be Mel and which one of us will be Claire?
No,
You're the redhead, you're Mel.
Cool.
Excellent.
I'm fine with that.
I'd be happy to be either.
I'm happy to be either of them, but I'm really happy to get to be Mel.
Yeah, but I got to hang out with Paul McDermott, so...
Shut up. Now you've made me feel really sad.
And
So...
it's picked out as being as good as Jules McCrossan, so yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Claire represents.
Now,
Team Hooper.
that...
Team Hooper.
That finishes off the Great British Bake Off for this season. However...
No, we haven't talked about what everyone's up to now.
Okay, so you got...
Yeah, we'll get to what you were going to lead into,
Okay.
but what everyone's up to now. Now, highlight, Yan, Julia and Flo on a road trip.
Oh, God, yeah. And again...
I want to know what they were singing.
And again, if you didn't listen to it, and I can't imagine if you're listening to this that you didn't listen to it,
Yeah.
but if you didn't listen to it, go and listen to our last episode, which was an interview with Yan, which is about an hour long. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long.
God, she's
and
amazing to listen to.
She's wonderful.
We
and
did no fucking work. It was all Yan.
It was all Yan.
And her cat.
And the storytelling.
Yan has a mighty fine pussy.
And the...
I took that to a place.
You did. And the storytelling in particular about the dragon is first rate. Look...
I want that to be released as a book.
Just listen to the podcast for her telling us the backstory about the vegetarian dragon.
And instead of doing graphics, she could bake it and they could photograph the different scenes with the bakes.
That would be awesome. It'd be a lot of work, but that would be awesome.
Or they get like the drawer, because there's actually the dude who draws
the illustrator.
The illustrator from Great British Bake Off.
And getting to do it.
Yeah,
cool. And the highlight the karaoke, I'd love to have been there.
Another one of my funny follow-ups is Tom, who's training for the marathon, so that he said to prove that he could do something within a reasonable time frame.
By the way, I wouldn't do that in a reasonable time frame, Tom.
No. My reasonable time frame to do a marathon is over 4 weeks, and I'll do it in parts and go home for a nap in between.
Yeah, my reasonable time frame for a marathon is like a couple of the earlier Olympic marathons where, people were disqualified because later on it was found that they'd done part of it by train.
Hey, that's a great idea.
The St. Louis Olympics, where 3 of the contestants were disqualified because they took the train.
On an aside,
popped up at the line.
It was one of the hilarities. My school used to do a fun run around the Bay, or the Bay Run, which people in this non-generic city would know. And it was like, it's basically, there's a road all around it. So every year you could tell who'd gotten their P plates, because they would suddenly disappear, and 5 minutes later, them and their mates are in the car, hanging out the side, giving the finger and yelling other,
Encouragement.
yelling encouragement of the smutty variety to the rest of us.
Made you run faster.
It did.
Now,
Or fall into the bay, as a couple of people did.
any other feedback before we move on?
Yes, there's Kate, who's not only finishing her masters next year, she's now going for her black belt.
Stop adding things on Kate, really. There's...
I'm surprised they had to heavily edit her backstory, obviously, because they couldn't fit everything in.
Espionage has to be in there somewhere, I swear.
Yes.
And I loved the fact they referenced that Stacey's still using pink because,
Absolutely. She's taken it to a next level.
She needs to, because she's awesome.
I'm just imagining her being commissioned by who was that that Hollywood starlet who wanted Jane Mansfield that wanted everything in pink, bringing her in.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Liam's finishing off university.
And still unfortunately supporting the wrong football team, but
and writing a thesis about the drama of baking.
And still supporting the wrong football team.
Who else is there? There's a few people. What's his face is cooking. Chris is doing the cookies.
And mastered his fortune cookies. So
yeah.
It was good. It was a good little wrap up.
Yeah.
So that brings us.
I mean, I missed some people, but sorry.
That brings us.
I think I did well. Yes.
It sounds like mournful music we're doing. Okay.
Boom, 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 boom. Cue the obelisk and the red lighted eye of hell and outer space. Zoom in to Chris in this moment, perched above the blinking red light of a microphone, ready to say, "That's your cue. That's your cue. You talk now."
If the microphone light's blinking, by the way, we're on mute, just so you know.
Oh.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, don't mute it.
Don't mute us. That would be bad.
Or maybe in my case.
The next part of the announcement may not get out there.
All right.
So obviously, Thursday the 18th,
Yes.
Australian Bake Off returns.
Yay!
Australian Bake Off for 2017-18 miscellaneous. So obviously, we're going to in the next couple of days. We'll be getting a few social media accounts out there. Obviously, on Twitter. Robert has obviously made himself very well known to everybody on the Twitter feed. There's a few others out there, so we'll gradually start introducing people as we go through.
How cool do the bakers look already?
It's great. Look, go and watch a lot of these little videos they're putting out. It's great. The only video I don't particularly like, I really hate that little vignette they're doing advertising it with the cracking and then the knife going through.
Oh, that's
annoying.
Oh, that's just, what's it called? That's just, what's that mean? That word that means sickly sweet and just insipid. It's very insipid.
I just hate the cracking noise. It's annoying me.
But you know what's awesome? The Mel and Claire behind the scenes.
Oh, the Mel and Claire behind the scenes is outstanding.
I think they're making stud muffins.
So the Mel and Claire behind the scenes is wonderful. And all the videos with the bakers and learning about them.
Yes, hashtag tea cake.
Exactly. We've had a little bit of interaction with some bakers and they're wonderful people. So for everyone who remembers what the last series of Great Australian Bake Off was like in terms of social interaction, we're in for a wonderful ride again. Yeah.
So just start spamming them all week, going, "Oh my god, you're baking. How do you feel? You're about to walk into a shed."
How does it feel to walk into a shed
after a year?
That's a big question.
What's bunting like in real life?
Yeah. Is it all about the bunting? Is it really all about the bunting?
Yes.
So
Maggie's jewellery. Can you wear it? Will she let you borrow it?
Does Maggie hand you a bottle of verjuice when you walk in?
Yes. Is it compulsory that you scull it before the second bake?
So these are all questions we probably won't answer. But what we will be doing is...
Oh, not with that attitude.
What we will be doing is we will be shifting the podcast, obviously, to follow the show, because that would be stupid if we were doing the show beforehand.
Yeah.
So episode 1 was fantastic. We haven't seen it yet, but boy, wasn't it good.
I'm just guessing there was some
what happened.
baking.
What was the first thing they baked? A cake.
I'm intuiting Maggie walked into the tent, everyone went, "Oh my god, it's Maggie Beer," and it cut to someone being interviewed outside the ghost going, "I can't believe I'm in the same room as Maggie Beer," and then cut to someone else going, "Matt Moran, what a guy, Aussie legend."
So we're hoping this season to once again have a few of the bakers on. Can't say much at the moment, but we're very hopeful. We're also probably going to have
some locked in the basement downstairs. Sandy has her dark room. I built one too.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
I got the specs from Sandy. I just tweeted her. She's like, no probs, Kristie. I've got you covered. This is what my dark room looks like. Go for it.
Okay, we'll talk about the rest of those details off mic because I don't want to let people know who we've got. Police might be listening. So
sweet.
We'll hopefully as well be talking to a few of last season's bakers before we get in as well. We've got a few people we've been keeping in touch with, so hopefully we'll have a few of those out as well before we get into the new series. But we're really looking forward.
But if we don't, you get to listen to us, which is pretty free.
Yeah, we're a gift.
Yeah, like you don't live with Chris, and he's hilarious. Not as hilarious as me, but he's still pretty good to live with, and keeps me on my toes because I'm like, I've got to keep up with the comedy gold. Don't want him getting better than me. So, yeah.
And on that blatant lie, I'm still Chris,
and I'm still the best.
And also Kristie. This has been the Washing Up Podcast. Also, before we sign off quickly, I know you're listening to us on iTunes or you're listening to us on our Libsyn account. We're on Spotify.
Yeah.
So you can go looking for the Washing Up on Spotify and you can catch up with all of our past episodes and all the ones we're going to be doing.
You can make it like your own radio show, like put us on, put some of your favourite music on, put one of my favourite songs on, like Friday I'm in Love by The Cure or Ruslana's Wild Dances. Just knock yourself out.
So we're on Spotify as well, so feel free to let people know there's now no excuse to not check us out. Also, hopefully in the next week or so.
We are everywhere.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Also, in the next week or so, I'm hoping to be able to give everybody a link to Google Play as well. So Google Play Music will hopefully be out there too.
We'll be in carrier pigeons. Noel will be able to listen to us.
Yeah, we're going to have carrier pigeons too. I'm working on that.
We're moving into cuneiform.
I can't quite get the pigeons to come back at the moment. That's the problem.
Hieroglyphics, I hear we're getting translated.
I know how to do that. That's easy.
Excellent.
So, anyway, I'm still Chris.
I'm still Kristie.
We'll catch you all later.
Ciao.